Hi, welcome to all of you folks out there watching us on Facebook Live. My name is Jay. I'm with Mardel Stores, and I'm honored to have Greg Laurie with us this morning. And we just wanted to talk to him for a minute, give him an opportunity to share with you guys. We were just honored that he would come by the corporate office today, and he just inspired our staff this morning with a great message and a great word. So, Greg, it's great to meet you and get to know you a little bit.
Great to be here, Jay.
Yeah.
I like your super cool glasses there.
Thank you. Thank my wife for those, I think.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, my better half. But anyway, so for folks out there who maybe have seen your name on a book or something but are not too familiar with you, maybe you could just let them know who you are, what you're all about, your ministry.
Okay. Well, my name is Greg Laurie, and I became a Christian when I was 17 years old. My mother was a raging alcoholic. She was married and divorced 7 times. I was going the wrong way fast in life. And someone came on my high school campus and shared the gospel in a way I understood, and I became a believer. In fact, that story is told in this book, Jesus Revolution, and in this film, Jesus Revolution, that's on DVD and also on Netflix and other streaming platforms. But, you know, God had a plan for my life, Jay, and I never planned on becoming a Christian. I never planned on becoming a pastor or a preacher of any kind. I started out as a graphic designer. I still am involved in design as well. But so that's something that, you know, it's been said, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know he didn't get there by himself. And I kind of feel that way. Like I'm where I am because the Lord put me here. I'm not sure why he chose me, but he did. And my passion is to reach people with the gospel, people that are like me, that maybe aren't coming from Christian homes, that are cynical, that, you know, have had a bad hand dealt to them by life, so to speak, and they're wondering what their life is all about. I want to tell them there's a God in heaven who loves them and they can have a relationship with him. And that's something I've been doing basically for 50 years. We started a church 50 years ago. We just celebrated our anniversary. I started it when I was really preaching at 19, pastoring at 20. So, you know, I got started very early, but that's what I'm still doing to this present day.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And so you pastoring and also authoring, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I understand it's over 70 books now?
Yes. No one reads them, but I've written 70 books.
So how did you get into authoring? What sparked that? And what were the ideas? How did they come for your books?
Well, going back to my earlier books, I started with a little cartoon booklet called Living Water, which was a presentation of the gospel. And as time passed, I would write books on various subjects. I recently did a series of books that are like spiritual biographies. I came across the story of Steve McQueen, who was, you know, the #1 movie star in the 70s. And I'd heard he had become a Christian. So it started with a Google search, Steve McQueen, Christian, ? And I found some articles, and I found the name of a man who knew him as pastor, Leonard DeWitt. So I tracked this story down, and that became a book I wrote called Steve McQueen, The Conversion or Salvation of an American Icon. Then my friend John Irwin and I did a film together, a documentary about this, and released it as a Fathom event in theaters. It did very well, and we did a book that went with it. Then I did another one called Johnny Cash, The Redemption of an American Icon. You know, many have seen the Johnny Cash film with Joaquin Phoenix, but they don't know the spiritual story. And Johnny, you know, was a struggling believer, and he had a lot of ups and downs, but it's a fascinating story. So I wrote a book about him. We made a documentary film about that as well. This book here, Billy Graham, The Man I Knew, is the story of just Billy Graham from my perspective. I've known him for many years. I've been on his board of directors for over 30 years. And it was my privilege to spend time with Billy. As he was ending his crusade ministry, I was starting mine. And he asked me to help him with sermon writing and illustrations in particular. So I spent a lot of time traveling with him and learning from him. It was sort of like I spent time with I think the #1 evangelist of all time, apart from the apostles.
Yeah.
And so he, to me, has always been the gold standard of evangelism. And I can say of him that he's the most godly man I ever met. He's even more impressive privately than he is publicly, which is, you know, saying a lot because he's a very impressive public preacher in person. So those are just some of the book ideas. And Jesus Revolution is, based on my life story. And this one, Tell Someone, is a book about how to share your faith. Just where do you start? I wrote it as though I were sitting down over a cup of coffee with someone and explaining how to do evangelism. Because a lot of people are intimidated by sharing their faith. So that there's so many other books, I don't want to spend all this time talking about them all. But
that's interesting. Of course, a lot of these books, you can pick them up at Mardel.com. If you just click over there, or if you have a Mardel in your area, you can go in the store and pick them up. So how did the idea come about? You talked about Jesus Revolution being kind of your life story. How did the idea come about to make it into a movie?
Yeah, it actually was not my idea. So my friend John Irwin, who directed this film, he directed I Can Only Imagine, and in other films, he has a company called the Kingdom Story Company. I'd never met him. This was about 9 years ago. He comes to me with a copy of Time magazine that has that psychedelic image of Jesus on the cover from 1972 with the words Jesus Revolution. He says, I found this magazine and I have always wanted to talk to someone who was there. So I said, well, I was there. I came to Christ at 17 around that time. So we began to talk and he said, I'm thinking of making a film about this. I said, well, that's great, John, you should. And then he came back a while after that with a screenplay, and he had written it around my life, which I didn't know he was going to do. How I came to faith, my wife, how we met. So it's a love story. Then it's a story of Pastor Chuck Smith and this fiery evangelist, hippie evangelist named Lonnie Frisbee, and how the two of them met. It was like nitro met glycerin, and this explosion happened. So that's when I started coming to church there. So it's all of our stories wrapped together. So he had the idea. He made the movie. He said, you ought to write a book about it. I said, yeah, maybe I should. So I wrote the book thinking it would come out before the film, but the film got delayed. So the book came out before the film, but now the film is out, and I've been told that 25 million people have seen this film, and it will ultimately reach 100 million people. And what's really amazing about this film is it's impacted people spiritually. And I've heard so many amazing stories of people coming to faith, coming to Christ after seeing this film. Here's an illustration of that. We did a baptism a few months after the film came out. And a lot of this film is based around key baptism scenes where I'm baptized and others are baptized at a place called Pirates Cove Beach in Newport Beach. And so people were so moved by these baptism scenes, they wanted to go be baptized in this same place. So we announced we're doing a Jesus Revolution baptism. 20,000 people showed up, and we baptized in one day 4,500 people. That's the largest baptism in American history. And one man came down, he was 85 years old. It's kind of hard to get down on this beach. And they said, well, why are you here? He says, I saw the movie and accepted Christ and I wanted to be baptized here. And his family members said, we never thought he would come to Christ. And so we found that this movie has reached unexpected people in unexpected places with an unexpected message. And that's what I like to do. That's why my books are so diverse, like a book on Steve McQueen, Johnny Cash, and Jesus Revolution. I'm trying to reach people that maybe wouldn't normally read a Christian book. Right. And then this book is obviously for the Christian public. So it's just different things that I engage in because I think there's a lot of people out there that are searching and want answers, and we need to give them those answers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think one of the most interesting things about the movie was we had some pretty popular actors that got into the movie.
Yes.
And how did that come about? Did they have like I'm not exactly sure how they do that when they get actors for movies, if they put out a call to actors or if they think about people. Were you involved in any of that? Or?
Somewhat, but that's the choice of the director, John Irwin. But he did keep me apprised of what was happening. So they auditioned for the role of Kathy, and Anna Grace Barlow got the role, and she did an amazing job. I'd never heard of her before. Joel Courtney, who has had some success in films, a film called Super 8, directed by or produced by Spielberg some years ago. So he was cast as me, but John approached Kelsey Grammer to play the role of Chuck Smith. And what's interesting is I was talking with Kelsey on the set of the film one day in Alabama, where we shot a lot of the film. And I said, Kelsey, you've had a very successful career in television. Obviously, Frasier, he has all these Emmys he's won. And I said, why would you take the role of a struggling pastor in a film? He said, well, Greg, I was at a point in my life where I was wanting to do something meaningful. And so he said, these are his words, I was meditating and thinking about it. I want to do a meaningful film. And the script for Jesus Revolution came the next day. So, and then later I heard Kelsey tell that same story in an interview that he did. And he said, while I was praying, because I said to him after he told me that, Kelsey, got it. That was an answer to your prayer. And I think Kelsey has come much closer to the Lord as a result of playing this role of Chuck. He plays it so beautifully and so believably. I mean, I got to hang out with actors a lot during this filming. Jonathan Rumi, who plays Lonnie Frisbee, and the process they go through is fascinating. And they have to shoot the same scene, like sometimes 6, 7 times exactly the same way, and make you believe it's happening in real life. It's quite a fascinating thing to watch a film be shot.
Wow, that's amazing.
But I was there to sort of, well, we didn't say it that way. We said it this way, or, so they listened to my commentary because I was there, we wouldn't have actually worn that, but we might, maybe that's too much. One guy came on set and he had a headband and a fringe vest and, very brightly colored shirt and all these things going on. I said, maybe a little too much, just kind of downplay it a little bit, but it was really fun to be there and interact with the actors and help them because some of them weren't real familiar with how things are done in the church.
Right.
Like baptize people. Who knows how to baptize a person? So I had to teach Kelsey and Jonathan Rumi, who played Lonnie Frisbee, how to baptize a person. So they'd never done that before. Not a lot of opportunities to baptize people in life unless you're in the church.
Definitely not in Hollywood, right?
No.
That's great. On the subject of Jesus Revolution and stuff, I think we're in a place in America where we need another Jesus Revolution, we really do. And I heard you talk about, in an interview that you did, I think it was with Kirk Cameron, but you talked about the concept of preparing the ground. Yeah. And I thought that was really fascinating. And I wondered if you could just talk to us about that concept of preparing the ground in the church, because we want to see another Jesus Revolution in our country and to see people coming to Christ. And so maybe you could just talk about that for a little bit.
Well, pre-prayer, it's prepare, but I made it pre-prayer because the question is, can we, through human efforts, bring about a spiritual awakening? The answer is no. Only God will send a revival where and when he wants to send it. We've had 4 great awakenings in American history, the last being the Jesus movement or the Jesus Revolution. But my question is, can we prepare the ground for the seed of a spiritual awakening? And I think the answer is yes. And in 2 Chronicles 7:14, God says, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then God promises, I'll hear from heaven, forgive their sin, and heal their land. So we all want to see our land healed. Mm-hmm. Contextually, that was given to the nation Israel. But principally, I think it applies to any nation, anywhere, including America. So what does God say we need to do? He says, if my people, interesting, God points his finger at his people. We often point our finger at Hollywood, they're the problem. Or DC, they're the problem. God points his finger at his own people and says, here's the problem. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. So God is saying revival starts in the church, right? Yeah. Then he says, then I'll hear from heaven, forgive their sin and heal the land. So to me, the way to prepare the ground is pray. You can have a spiritual revival personally, even before it happens in the nation. Sometimes revivals or awakenings happen in a person's life. Sometimes they happen in the life of a family, or they happen in the life of a church or a community or a state or a nation. So it can start with you. All revive means, we use the word revival, excuse me. All it means is to return to original condition. If I restored a classic car, say a 57 Chevy, and it was, just like it looked years ago, that's a revival of sorts, okay? A revival of a car. So in the same way, if I revive a life, I'm getting it back to original condition, where one was maybe closer to the Lord than they are today in a tight relationship with Jesus Christ. And I think every Christian needs periodic revival. I know I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think revival begins in us first, doesn't
That's
it?
it.
Yeah, Jesus said we're the salt of the earth.
Yes.
So if the salt loses its savor,
There it is.
yeah. So we have to.
It's like an uncarbonated Coke or a decaf soy latte. Why even order it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially a lavender latte. That's a new thing.
Man, not for me.
Yeah. You go for caffeine, do you?
I do. Yes.
Good boy.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway. So just to kind of, were there any last thoughts that you have that maybe you might want to share with our folks, or what's next for you, or your future of your ministry, or where you're headed? Or
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I have a lot of things that I'm working on. I mentioned earlier that I started as a cartoonist, so I'm actually doing some animation right now. I have a little cartoon character I came up with many years ago. His name is Ben Born Again. See, it's a play in words, as in I've been born again. So Ben Born Again is this little surfer dude from California, and he has a dog who's yellow, so his name is Yellow Dog. And he talks. It's a cartoon. You can do anything in cartoons. So I'm on my fourth one. They're funny, they're entertaining, and they have the gospel in them. I've never seen the gospel in a cartoon before. So I wanted to do it in a way that would disarm a person, they would laugh at it, enjoy it, and then give them the gospel. That's not unlike what I've done with the movie we did on Johnny Cash or Steve McQueen or Jesus Revolution. Again, reaching unexpected people in unexpected places with an unexpected message. So now I'm trying to reach younger people, kids, because kids need to hear the gospel. And so a lot of times we talk over their heads and we leave them out. So this is geared toward kids. And that's just one thing I'm working on. We'll continue to do our evangelistic crusades. We have one every year in Southern California at Angel Stadium. And we have other ideas we're pursuing, thinking about other film ideas as well. So just, follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, now called X, Facebook, TikTok even. And or go to our website, harvest.org. Oh, we just launched a really cool thing, Jay. It's called Harvest Plus. It's sort of like all of our content meets Netflix. And you can download it on your television or your tablet or your phone. And it has all these movies that I've mentioned, except Jesus Revolution. It's not there yet. But it has my sermons. It has a lot of things we've done. So if you want to get more of our content, just download the Harvest Plus app at your app store.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And of course, if you're interested in the movie or the book and you'd like to get that through Mardel.com, just click on over and we'll be happy to ship that to you. Or if you're, like I said, if you live close to a Mardel store, we'd love to see you inside the store. Come on in, get a copy of this book. And
I've never been to a Mardel store.
Really?
I want to go to one, but you're in Texas.
Well, we have some nearby. We should take you over there before you
that'd
leave
be fun.
town. That'd be great.
Yes.
So anyway, I'd
Okay.
love to. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Greg, for being here with
pleasure.
us. And we look forward to seeing you guys sometime soon. God bless.